Remember when you were young and everything in life seemed so much more fun and the possibilities seemed endless? Is that still the same for you, or has life become a serious business? Wherever you are, you can change it. What if more magic, fun, and possibilities were available to you right here, right now? Join Tamara and Alun in the playground of possibilities as they play, laugh, and explore new ways you can use to make your life more fun and to create more of what you desire.
Hello and welcome to, wasn't expecting that, welcome to the Playground of Possibilities. That music, did that me or did that cut short? How funny was that? Anyway, welcome to the Playground of Possibilities with myself, Alan Jones, and my gorgeous and fantastical, marvellous, super duper new co-host, Tamara Yunker. It's super duper Tamara. Super. So, how you been, Ms. Tamara?
I am well and groggy at the same time.
That's
so cool. This is going to be like super fun in order to wake me up this morning.
I wonder how much wake up energy and gorgeous energy we can.
Yes. What else is possible? How does it get any better than this? And before we say anything more, I would like to invite everyone listening to join me in wishing Alan a happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
We were singing to him before the show started, and his instructions were that was beautiful and don't give up your day job.
It was beautiful. It was very unique the way you were singing. It was awesome. How did I get so lucky to have people singing to me? So, was it mean or was it kind?
Oh, yeah. Let's put it in the judgment category box, shall we? Shall we figure it out? Shall we analyze it and decide?
Let's define it. Absolutely. So gorgeous people. Today's show is Stop Being So Fucking Mean. And
that's an order, damn it.
That is an order. Stop being so fucking mean. And the reason it was kind of my choice or my kind of awareness to have this kind of show this week, and Tamara and I have been kind of playing with this for some time in terms of intimacy. So really where I was going with this is I realized just how unkind we are to ourselves. And, just the biggest thing, one of the biggest things that I notice about all of this stuff is how mean we are when we speak to ourselves. I don't know whether that's something you still do, lovely Tamara, or whether, it's something you used to do.
Really? No, it's really a used to. It's truly a used to. I when you asked that question, I paused for a moment just to be like, when was the last time I was unkind to myself? And I was like, It does happen on a rare occasion, and it's usually in the process of discovering something, like some like some lingering judgment that's like buried, right? It's like buried in somewhere in the scaffolding of my interior landscape, and something will perhaps trigger it, and then it's like, oh, I didn't even know that was there. So it's not like an everyday, all day long kind of thing, perhaps in the way that it used to be. Now it's like it'll show up like when I step on a landmine. If that makes sense.
It absolutely does, and I totally get it, because for me it's like, I notice when I'm doing that stuff, and I'm much more aware now than ever before of where I am being unkind to myself. But then there are those, what I would call landmines, those ones that just kind of really take you unawares, that you're like, oh my God, I'm being so, and you don't always know that you're being mean to yourself, so you realise you've just blown a leg off. When it's really, really painful. You think, it wasn't that other person being mean to me or that situation that created my meanness, it was me.
Yeah.
It was me choosing something that was really mean to me. And, and a lot of mine really has been, and often still is if I notice it, it's the self-talk. It is that I'm so stupid, or I'll never be able to do that, or, and it's insidious, and we're so brought up with it that we don't even realise we're doing it.
Yeah. and it's considered, I mean, people would sit around and everyone would concur, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I do that, and I do that, and I do that, and I do that. And it's sort of agreed upon as normal, and people don't, I wouldn't say that I really knew that there was another possibility. If somebody had said to me, oh, well, you can just, create a judgment-free reality and you can stop that, I probably would have looked at them kind of funny and said, well, number one, I don't know if I believe you, and number two, how? And number three, so many of these judgments are required, so what are you talking about?
Absolutely, because it is. It's like it is required to speak to yourself like that, especially when you see everybody else around you doing it. You think, oh, well, they're talking to themselves like that, and I cannot possibly say I am marvelous and awesome, and oops, I'm cute but not bright, or all of the stuff that you get into the habit of saying when you are being kind to yourself. Because, you have to fit in. And, of course, if they're being mean to themselves and I'm not, then that means I'm abnormal.
Yeah. And for me, it was a process, I know, because, for the first year, at least, that I was really in Access, I was still doing judgment, maybe more subtly, maybe more in a tricky way, maybe more covert, you know what I mean? But I realized that I was still doing judgment, and it was creating. It was like a possibility perimeter. I was stuck inside the possibility perimeter of the confines of my mind, where I was still dependent on judgment. Like, this is a weird thing, but people are literally dependent on judgment until they're not. So it took me some deliberate choice, like deliberately saying, I don't want to do this anymore. And when I do it, I'm going to notice, and I'm going to stop, and I'm going to choose something different. Yeah. And one of the kind of clearings that I used was what energy, space, and kindness, what energy, space, and consciousness of infinite kindness can I be for me right now? And then just, destroy and uncreate everything that doesn't allow that. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. That was the simple, basic clearing that I used most often, just to create the difference. If imagine that you have like a fork in the road. You arrive at this fork in the road. You can keep doing what you've always done and keep having the same experience, or you can choose something different. So when I'm creating, I'm always looking at, well, obviously, what would I like to create here? What would I like to create here? And if kindness toward me is what I'd like to create here, then my favorite clearings or processes for doing that are, what energy, space, and consciousness of blank, or whatever it is that I'd like to create, can my body and I be right now with total ease. So that's the one that I use most often. It's simple and it's potent.
It absolutely is, and I totally get that, because for me, I haven't been using that not until recently. One of the questions I was asking is, what can I choose now that will be the greatest kindness to me? And because how often do we choose what we think will be kind to everybody else but not ourselves?
Yeah.
But just to pick up something else as well that Keisha's put in the chat room is a lot of people do meanness to themselves disguised as joking or one-upmanship, that kind of stuff. And I used to say things to myself like, at lunchtime, fat boys need to eat. I wouldn't. I know, it's so insidious and horrible. How could I wouldn't dream of saying to anybody else, "Oh, you're fat, you should eat." Could you imagine that? Wow. Yeah. But it's okay. It's okay for me to say that to me. And there was always that, if I can get that comment in before anybody else, then nobody else, then it won't hurt if somebody else says it.
Yeah.
Preemptive. So if I wound... Yeah, if I stab myself in the leg hard enough, as many times as I possibly can, then if anybody else does it, I won't feel it.
Well, and that's exactly what I was talking about in terms of one of the many, many, many ways that we remain dependent on judgment. I remember being so proud of the fact that if I did something, I was like, I made a mistake, I screwed up, I did something wrong, of course, all of which require judgment, then I was going to be harder on myself than anyone else possibly could. So I'd literally, if I perceived that someone was about to, judge me, I'd be like, oh, no, don't worry, I got this. No one could possibly be harder on me than me, so I'll just really go into a ration of massive judgment in order to sort of prevent ever having to feel the judgment that someone else might have liked.
Yeah, I know. And isn't that insane? So,
Well, what was insane was that I was proud of that. I was literally proud of that.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a noble way of being. Like, don't worry, I'll judge me more than you ever could.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is. It's almost like we do competition with people. Well, I can be meaner to me than you could ever be as mean to me or to yourself. But
well, you know what, Alan? I think it's time for a paradigm in town, and let's be good instead. Really, it's 21st century, people. Judgment is so 20th century. Let's choose something different.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
if you're ready for a different experience.
Yeah. What energy, space, and consciousness can we be to be so far beyond judgment that it's totally irrelevant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let it become obsolete. It's just we're just out creating it. Something new is possible, and we're choosing it. Why? Because we can.
Yeah, it's like, what if judgment was just information? I think it was you who it you who said that? Yeah, and I love that. What if judgment is just information? You think I don't have to do anything with it.
It's information nowadays. It's information as to how other people are functioning. I'm like, oh, okay, that's the limitation that they're functioning from in this 10 seconds. This is what they're choosing. So in other words, it shows me what people are unwilling to receive, right? Because judgment is the line you've crossed. You say, nope, no receiving allowed here. Thank you very much. Not interested in receiving. So it just shows me where people are unwilling to receive. It shows me what they're choosing. It's like a pretty blatant neon signpost of what they want to create in their lives or don't want to create in their lives. So it's information. And for me, if I, like on that rare occasion, step on a landmine and notice there's some other judgment lingering in there that I haven't been aware, yet cognitively aware of, then it sends me into, it's like a signal for what lie am I still buying? What coffin of conclusion am I still living in that I haven't yet recognized and broken the spell of that lie? Because to me, we've all just brainwashed ourselves. We've all just put ourselves on a spell, and it's all the lies, the unconsciousness, the judgment. And as soon as I see, for me, the spell that I've put myself under, and then sort of forgot that I put myself under that spell, I'm like, oh, no. Limitation, be gone.
That's... Sorry, I'm loving your sexy drawl there. So it's like
that came up over the weekend while I was facilitating. I don't know where that came from, but you know what? I'm good at it right now. Which I also find funny because I was in California. I wasn't anywhere near Texas.
Who are you picking up on?
Yes, right?
So yeah. Sorry, go.
Oh, we're just so excited, aren't we?
I know.
One of the things that you touched on a little bit, and this came up in the sort of the show description, was, how often are you creating what you desire in your life, or do you spend all of your time attending to what other people need, what other people desire, what other people expect? That to me is one of the kind of one of the greatest unacknowledged unkindnesses that we do to ourselves. Like, if your whole attention is always on others, what do you need? What can I get for you? What can I do for you? How can I not hurt you? How can I, like, that whole, and you're not having any attention on what's the reality you'd like to create? What is it to trust you and create from that space? Like, that's one of the unkindnesses that a lot of people don't acknowledge, and it's rampant.
Yeah, and I think, part of that, of course, is we're taught in this reality that you have to put other people first and other people's needs come first. And so whether or not it's a kindness to you, it's like, well, if everybody else needs to eat, then I'll chop off I'll chop off every single limb I have just to make them, it's like, well, okay, so when you've chopped off all your limbs and they've eaten those, what are you going to do then? It's like, okay. It's just insane, and so we are taught so often that it is about just putting everybody else first. So maybe we can talk more. So I think we're coming up to a break. So why don't we? Yeah. So let's go to our first break, and then we'll pick up on this stuff and how we can start to change that. after these adverts. So,
were you told
Keisha.
as a child to grow up, act your age, and stop being childish? And were you made to feel wrong for choosing to have fun? Is that still the same for you now that you are an adult? Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you created it with more fun, more ease, and in the knowledge that far more choice and possibilities are always available to you? Tune into the Playground of Possibilities radio show with Tamara Junker and Alun Jones, who have fun playing with tools, techniques, and ideas that will inspire you to create more fun, more possibilities, and more magic in your life. Do you want to play? Listen for the Playground of Possibilities radio show every Monday at 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 7 a.m. Pacific on A2Zen.fm.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that when run assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
This is the Playground of Possibilities radio show with Tamara Junker and Alun Jones. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, UK 033-0001-0625, or Skype us at A2Zen.fm. You can also email us questions or comments by sending emails to playgroundofpossibilities@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Playground of Possibilities with myself, Alun Jones, and the gorgeous and amazing Tamara Junker. I'm gorgeous and amazing too. I should actually say that, shouldn't I? The gorgeous and amazing Alun Jones and that just as gorgeous and amazing Tamara Junker. We are gorgeous and amazing. How can we get more gorgeous and amazing than that? See, right? There's an unkindness. You see, you see what I mean? There's a landmine. There goes my leg. Poof. So, bam. So it's funny. So coming back to this changing, to changing all this, Rio has put in the chat room there, allowance for ourselves and where we're operating from, and also for others is really empowering. And I think for me, that has been one of the biggest changes for me in all of this being mean to me, is being totally an allowance of where I have been mean.
Oh yeah, completely.
Because
otherwise you're just piling more meanness on top of more meanness.
Yeah.
More meanness on top of more meanness.
I'm so stupid for being so mean to myself. I'm so thick. It's like, and there you go again, and it's just you're back in the same space. So, something that
it's a commitment that you make to you, right? We often don't. We were talking right before the break about how this reality teaches us that you are a good person, you're a noble person, you are a person to be esteemed if you make everybody else more important and greater than you. If you serve them, like this, I hear all the time, servant leader, that's exalted in this reality. Or sacrifice. If you sacrifice, your choice or your life or sacrifice for someone else or something else. And that is truly exalted. And that doesn't really give you a whole lot of space to create in your life what you would like to create. What's true for you? And trust in you. Like, to me, two of the greatest kindnesses that I finally began living was to trust me implicitly above all else. Never make what anyone else's point of view is or what somebody else would have me choose, their expectations or whatever. Never make that greater than me. And trusting what's true for me and what I'd like to create for me. Like, that was probably one of the number one top kindnesses that I chose to commit to myself. Like, okay, I get what this reality says. Do I want to keep investing in that? Because that's, in my point of view, an unkindness to me, or do I want to commit to me, to trust me implicitly above all else, and create what's true for me in my life?
Absolutely, and I totally get that. Learning to, or not even learning, making a demand of ourselves to trust ourselves, our awareness, and what we know, and all of that is such a massive change and a shift for people. And I think it's something that you said about, universe show me everywhere I'm lying to myself, and that, just saying things like that to me, for me has I've used that in so many other ways. So I use, universe show me everywhere I'm being mean to me. And and it is amazing. So in terms of, okay, so let's look at, when it comes to food, how mean are we by making ourselves eat things that we don't actually want? And and how mean are we not to do the things that we know would create more for ourselves, in terms of whether it's business, whether it's personal relationships, any of that stuff. It's like, okay, so, and when I notice that I'm doing it, it's like, okay, so what would it take to change this?
Yeah. Yep. And I really realized that when I started making that commitment to myself to be kind to me, then the people in my life that I was surrounding myself with in my life, it was like there was a difference in what I was receiving from others, and I was like, isn't that interesting? I'm pretty sure that started with my commitment to be kind to me. If we're not being kind to us, then if our environment our environment can reflect that, and we just think, oh yeah, well that's normal because that's your internal landscape. If you're being unkind to you in your internal landscape, then if people are being unkind to you in your external landscape, you're just like, oh yeah, that's totally normal, and it's just you don't think anything of it. You're like, yep, that's how it goes here. It's just unkindness after unkindness after unkindness after unkindness, and that's completely different for me now. I mean, I used to be in relationships with men who were very unkind, and I was like, yep, that's normal. Now it's not.
Because all men are bastards.
Now, is that kind, Alan?
Yeah. Well,
I really, truly, like, people are, you can invite them. This is what I've noticed anyway for myself, is you can take the most, somebody who, maybe most people are like, oh yeah, that woman's such a bitch, or that guy's such an asshole, or whatever. And if you can be the invitation for them to actually choose something different. It's amazing. And this is, again, what you mentioned, what Rioa says, when you be that space of allowance, and to me, allowance is sort of the antidote to judgment, if you will. It's like, if you choose to change and allow judgment to become obsolete in your life, you can start practicing allowance. Allowance is just that everything is an interesting point of view, recognizing that a judgment is not a fact. It's not a fact. It's not true. It's not real. It's just an interesting point of view. It could be just a story that you're telling yourself. Nothing is true or real unless you make it so. That's just, so if you want to change something, interesting point of view that I have that point of view as opposed to it's a fact, then that's the practicing of allowance. And to me, the allowance is the gateway to receiving. We play the game who can refuse the receiving the most on this planet. And if you'd really like to receive more, then allowance is the practice, the daily practice, if you will. You can toward greater receiving, and it also shifts you out of the judgment, and allowance becomes your new operating system, your new way of living. And that, to me, is a much more delicious experience. Judging ourselves doesn't feel good. It feels crappy. It feels yucky. It drags you down. There's a weight to it. And allowance and kindness, to me, feels nurturing. And I would rather nurture myself and feel that yummy goodness of appreciation and gratitude for me than the judgment. Not so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and how much do we fall into apathy around all of this stuff? Oh, well, that, as you said, it's a bit like, it's a bit like the eel. Oh, well, that's just what life's about. And, Same shit, different day. And you know, it was funny because I've been asking questions about, okay, so without kind of doing the show energetically, just saying, okay, so where can we go with this that would be great? And something that came to me, which, you know, you've kind of said in other ways, is when we're unwilling to receive kindness from ourselves, we can't receive kindness from anybody else.
No.
And that was, and you know, and I realize now, because time I'm trying to kind of work out, for me it's been a question all my life, you know, what would it take for me to receive more kindness, not in these words, but what more kindness from other people, to actually to receive the kindness that people have around me, well, whilst being really mean to myself. Well, obviously I'm not receiving kindness properly because I'm stupid. Yeah. So yeah. And you know, it was that insanity of trying to fix something that wasn't even broken in the first place, without looking at what the real issue was. And the issue was, I'm unwilling to receive kindness from me.
Yeah. Well, and what I've discovered is that each one of us has a different threshold for receiving different things. So if like me, and I think many people grow up in an environment where kindness just simply doesn't exist, then your threshold for receiving kindness is about 0. And you know, you have a threshold for receiving attention, you have a threshold for receiving care, you have a threshold for receiving money, you have a threshold for receiving just about anything in your life, and it's all different. Like in one area you might be fully, like your threshold to receive might be much higher, and another area it might be much lower. So for me, that threshold for receiving kindness was pretty non-existent. And I actually remember it was in 2012. I mean, this is crazy. It was summertime. I was in Canada. I was facilitating up there, and I had this awareness that kindness was something that I had sort of repressed, put in a box, locked the key, put in a closet, locked the door. It was like kindness wasn't safe here in this world of cruelty and, you know, abuse and contempt and disdain. And so I had to kind of, like, that threshold for being and receiving kindness was just about 0, and I had to cultivate it. Like, I had to say, okay, I'm going to make the deliberate choice to take the kindness out of the box, and I'm going to start, you know, allowing that kindness for me, to be that kindness for me, and to receive that kindness from others. It was a very deliberate choice, and something that I chose and cultivated deliberately.
It's funny. 2 things come to mind. First of all, one of them was when I was at the 2 and 3 in Dublin. I went to the microphone for the first time ever, and kind of spoke to Gary. It was like, oh my God, you know, barriers down, just without any resistance and reaction to everything. And kind of where we were going with it was about this whole receiving thing. And what Gary was saying to me was, he said to me, how many, because for me I thought it was about me being able to receive from women, and he was saying, how many women have you actually received true kindness from? And in my life, it had only been about 5, which was really amazing. It was like, and all the time I'm looking for women to be kind of really kind, and not all women are, and the same way that not all men are. And so, because for me as a child, it was kindness so bastardized in that whenever kindness came to me, there would be a slap. Yeah, it was like, it was always followed by some kind of punishment. So, and it wasn't even kindness that I'm only doing this for your own good. I'm doing this I've got to be cruel to be kind to you. So for me, kindness was something that you could never receive without some kind of slap or punishment with it. It was so warped, bastardized, that it just wasn't safe to receive kindness. And I realized that I'd shut it down almost completely.
Wow.
So, yeah, and then when I do get kind of real kindness from people, then I would completely kind of drop all barriers and stuff, or, you know, in my view, and then I would just see the kindness. I wouldn't see where they were willing to be something else, and then I would get slapped. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. Turn your perceiving of their kindness into a judgment, thinking that was their only choice of to be in the world.
Yeah. You know, and that judgment of what I had described their kindness to be was, as you said, it stuck blinders onto everything else, and of course that was the only way they would operate, so I wouldn't see anything else, and that's, I would get stung so quickly, and then I would blame them for it, well, is that really their fault? It's not about fault, it's just about awareness, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So time to do the break here, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got
Were you
more.
told as a child to grow up, act your age, and stop being childish? And were you made to feel wrong for choosing to have fun? Is that still the same for you now that you are an adult? Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you created it with more fun, more ease, and in the knowledge that far more choice and possibilities are always available to you? Tune into the Playground of Possibilities radio show with Tamara and Alun Jones, who have fun playing with tools, techniques, and ideas that will inspire you to create more fun, more possibilities, and more magic in your life. Do you want to play? Listen for the Playground of Possibilities radio show every Monday at 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 7 a.m. Pacific on A2Zen.fm.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that, when run, assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
This is the Playground of Possibilities radio show with Tamara and Alun Jones. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, UK 033-0001-0625, or Skype us at A2Zen.fm. You can also email us questions or comments by sending emails to playgroundofpossibilities@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Playground of Possibilities. We're having awesome fun working out how to do the breaks. So we'll get there. We're having fun and we're not being mean to ourselves.
That's all that matters to me. How much fun can we have?
Yeah. I'm an allowance. Let's just push the button. So
I was at the break. It occurred to me that, like, what actually is kindness? Here we are talking about a topic that can mean many things to many people, much like any other word or thing that you put out there. There's people have their own sort of personalized, subjective interpretations of it. So, what is kindness? And I realized that kindness. Often people interpret kindness to mean, if you're doing what I want you to do, then that's proving that you're being kind to me. And if you don't do what I want you to do, then I might, be like, well, you're being so mean because I want you to do something that you're not doing. And I use that as almost as a manipulation to get you back in line to doing what I want you to do. So it's really interesting how people can use this or any other thing as a way to kind of manipulate or control people. So that wasn't something interesting that I thought about. Do you still recognize people as kind if they're not doing what you want them to do? If they're actually being kind to themselves in choosing and creating a life that they desire, which may not be on your agenda, then do you decide that they're mean, that they're cool because they're not choosing what you would have them do?
I was to say, you've obviously met my mother.
See?
So yeah, that's exactly how my mother used to be. You're mean, you're selfish, you're horrible. Oh, and you're just like your father. Were all the things that were said to me if I didn't do what my mother wanted me to do.
Exactly.
That fit with her reality. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So to me, I'm just going to throw out, we started talking a little bit about allowance before this last break. And to me, kindness is where you're functioning from that space of allowance. And a simple way that I describe allowance as I'm facilitating my classes is the absence of making wrong. That's allowance and judgment are not compatible. So if you're judging, then you're not in allowance. And if you're in allowance, then there is an absence of making anything wrong. There's just simply nothing wrong here. So no matter what anybody's choosing, it's like that space of allowance is receiving everything exactly as it is without making it wrong. So to me, kindness is when you're functioning in that space of allowance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think, I think that it's that total allowance for self. And I also wonder as well where we've misidentified kindness as being, as always, I don't know if I can get the words out right, but it's like we think that kindness is always doing what somebody wants us to do. So let me give you an example so I can get to. My mother would always tie my shoelaces as a child because she thought it was kind to me because I used to struggle with it first of all. And I wasn't, right? So what happened was when I went to school and my shoelaces came in and I couldn't do them and I would look really stupid and the kids were really mean to me, and so my mum used to buy me slip-ons, and then of course they were mean to me because I used to wear slip-ons rather than tie-up shoes, and it's like, was that actually the greatest kindness? Well, no, it wasn't. And we think, we get into that. Kindness is always having that sweet voice and that being nice. And I think sometimes kindness can be saying to someone, get off your ass and do it yourself. It depends on, what's required, what can be received. And not in terms of being mean, but in terms of what would actually create the most.
Yeah.
What would be, because kindness, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. The other thing, when you said that was the helping, right? Like so many people will swoop in and try to help. In other words, they've got an idea of what something should look like, how something should go, what you should be doing. And so they're like, oh, let me help you. And so many times this idea of helping comes from a superior point of view of like, I know better for you than you do what you should choose or do. And is helping is people always try and say, oh, well, I was just trying to help you when they're actually doing something that might be unkind. So it's there's all kinds of sneaky ways that people will be unkind and perhaps not be aware that that's what's happening. Or what
I know what's best for you. I'm your mother. I'm your father. I'm your guardian. Whatever. Absolutely. So. Yeah, it's like, what if we started to ask the question, as you said, what energy, space, and consciousness what was it you said? What energy, space, and consciousness of total caring can I be for me? Is that what you were asking?
It was what energy, space, and kindness, or conscious. That's interesting. I keep saying that. Energy, space, and consciousness of infinite kindness can I be for me right now?
Right, and everything that doesn't allow that.
Yeah.
Pot and pot.
Allowance would work too. I mean, whatever you're trying to cultivate more of, you can put in the blank.
So what would it take for us to be more in allowance, or to be in total allowance of us and everything we've chosen and everything we're choosing? So and what else? How else would you, if someone came to you who was who'd struggled with being kind to themselves, or you noticed that they weren't even being kind to themselves, how would you be the invitation for them for something different? How would you start to change that with them?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question. The thing that I recognize that is the greatest, this is my interesting point of view, the greatest contribution and the greatest kindness to anyone is to be in total allowance of whatever they're choosing.
Yeah.
Even if it's unkind, being in total allowance of whatever they're choosing and not having a point of view that it should be any different than it is. And if we live our lives in kindness, like I talked about earlier, making that commitment to me to be kind to me above all else, trusting what I know and what's true for me above all else, and really creating the life that it's like this reality is not relevant to me. Pretty much this reality and everything in it and all of its judgments and all of the, must-dos, have-to, shoulds, and supposed-tos, and you got to get it right. Look, winning looks this way and losing looks that way. Like, none of that is relevant to me. Simply not relevant to me. And so when I live my life that way, it is, it's like a beacon of possibility to others that there is a different choice. And it's not saying that any choice that anyone's making is incorrect. It's just what they're choosing in this 10 seconds. And when somebody becomes curious about, it's like, I think we each have to reach our own rock bottom. And rock bottom doesn't necessarily have to do with, alcohol or drugs or waking up in the gutter. It's just getting that point where whatever you've been tolerating or however you've been living, whatever that looks like, you get to the point where you're like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And whatever that is, it doesn't even matter. So, what I just described, that moment in Canada 3 years ago when I was like, you know what? I want to let kindness permeate my life. And that deliberate choice, but nobody can, you can't choose that for somebody. And so really being an allowance of their choice, whatever that choice is, without a point of view, to me is one of the greatest kindnesses not only we can be for ourselves, but for others. And it's the invitation to let them know something else is possible when or if you're ready to choose it.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's such a delicious invitation, and for me it is that when we embody that kindness for ourselves, what great invitation can that be for everyone else around us? And I think, for me, one of the things that I would love to create in this world is, and I know you've said it yourself, is a world that's so far beyond judgment, that where true kindness is for ourselves and for everyone around us is just so every day that it's not even questioned anymore. You just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like it's so second nature that, is this a kindness for me and everyone around me?
It's not even, to me, it's beyond that question. Alan,
Yeah.
When you live in a world where kindness and possibility prevail, it is the standard operating, it's like, it's how people function. Like, that's just, you said nature. That's our nature. And my interesting point of view, again, is that is our nature. And kindness is the natural space of being when we're not judging ourselves. I mean, if you take judgment out of the picture, then what is there? Well, there's that space of allowance, and there is no wrongness, and there is no, I mean, it's interesting. Anything like kindness, or let's put on the other end of that spectrum, that continuum, cruelty. Like one end is kind, and the other end is cruel. And if you're heading from one end of the spectrum or the continuum down to the other, where does kindness end and cruelty begin? There's not a single person who can say where kindness ends and cruelty begins, because it's arbitrary. It's subjective. It's completely in your head. It's completely the interpretation you've made based on the construct in your head. It doesn't exist anywhere as a fact. It's just an interpretation that someone made. It's arbitrary and it's subjective, and there's no realness to that continuum of judgment. But there is a space of kindness that exists beyond the polarity of right and wrong and good and bad.
Absolutely.
And that's the world that I'm choosing to create, because I can.
Because you're kind.
It's fun for me.
It's like, and how much more fun. I mean, I muck about and say, I love being mean because it's fun. But, and there is kind of a massive joke in that. But for me, it's like, actually, how much fun is it when you are kind to you? For me, it's much more fun to know that I'm in just naturally, as you said, just automatic operating system of just being kind to me in everything that I do, so that I don't even have to think about or ask the question whether I'm doing it. I just do it.
Yep. It just is. It's just in the way that years ago judgment just is, like that's just the way it was in my reality. Kindness just is now. It's just the way that I function until, unless I step on a landmine and go, oh look, there's a little fragment of judgment still in there. I just knew it.
Okay, so let's see if we can get this right this time. You're listening to Playground of Possibilities with myself, the awesome and gorgeous Alun Jones, and the also gorgeous and awesome Tamara Juncker, and we'll be back after these breaks.
Were you told as a child to grow up, act your age, and stop being childish? And were you made to feel wrong for choosing to have fun? Is that still the same for you now that you are an adult? Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you created it with more fun, more ease, and in the knowledge that far more choice and possibilities are always available to you? Tune into the Playground of Possibilities radio show with Tamara Juncker and Alun Jones, who have fun playing with tools, techniques, and ideas that will inspire you to create more fun, more possibilities, and more magic in your life. Do you want to play? Listen for the Playground of Possibilities radio show every Monday at 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 7 a.m. Pacific on A2Zen.fm.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that, when run, assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
This is the Playground of Possibilities radio show with Tamara Juncker and Alun Jones. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, UK 033-0001-0625, or Skype us at A2Zen.fm. You can also email us questions or comments by sending emails to playgroundofpossibilities@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Playground of Possibilities radio show. You know who it is because you heard me before the break, but anyway, it's Tamara and Alun. And I'm Tamara, and that's that Alun you can hear laughing in the background. How awesome is that? So, you know, occurred to me during the break, Tamara, that sometimes when I feel what I can describe as true kindness is when I'm in nature. Yeah, it's like, absolutely. So you go and stand by a tree and, just feel the kindness and the total allowance and the intimacy and the vulnerability and all of the, the elements of, that is it. It's, the 5 elements of intimacy. That trust in itself, all of those elements, and you stand by a tree and think, okay, so what would my life be like if I was like that?
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things that I know we're getting here to the end of the show, and I wanted to bring up before we go, for sure, is that this is not about kind is right and cruel or unkind is wrong. Because as soon as you fall into making kindness right or cruelty wrong, you're back into judgment again. So you've just tricked yourself into believing that you're being an allowance, but you're not. And one of the ways you can know, because I know a lot of people, if you are finding yourself having an emotional reaction to people who are being unkind, that's something that you determine to be unkind, you are making judgment right and unkindness wrong. So if you feel sad when you see unkindness, or you feel angry when you see unkindness, or you feel anything at all other than allowance when you see what you would what you would say, oh, look at that person's being unkind, or that person's not being nice, or whatever, if you have an emotional reaction to that, you're making kindness right and whatever they're choosing wrong.
Yeah.
That's how you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally get that, because it's like, coming back to that whole thing around judgment is just information. You're looking at it and going, oh, right, so that's where that person's operating from right now.
It's just what they're choosing.
It's
this
just
is the
what they're
beauty
choosing.
of an infinite being, functioning as
Yeah.
an infinite being, is that everything is just a choice. It's just a choice, like you just said, in that 10 seconds. Whatever they're choosing in that moment is just a choice. If you go, oh my God, they should be more kind, oh my God, like this world, I mean, I had so much contempt and disdain for this reality because my point of view was that it was cruel, and it was abusive, and it was brutal, it was unkind, and I was making that very, very, very wrong, and then living at the effect of it. Once I stopped making it wrong, and I was like, that's just what everybody's choosing right now. And the thing is, you do not, just because other people are choosing something that you wouldn't be choosing, does not mean that you cannot create the life that you desire. You absolutely can, regardless of what anyone else is choosing. So if the whole rest of the planet is choosing unkindness, and you're like, that's okay, I'll just be a little island of kindness right here, and I would still be able to create the life that works for me.
Absolutely, and I think it again. I would. What kind of occurs to me there is how many lifetimes have we been? So it's like when we judge something, it's like how many lifetimes have we actually been there, done that, and judged it previously? So like if you can be an allowance of everything that you have been, then what would it take to be in total allowance of what everyone else has been or is choosing right now? And you just kind of get into that. Oh, it's just, as you said, just information, and I can create my life. I can be my island of kindness. I love that. Do you know what? It reminds me of, this is my island in the sun. And that's what kind of in my head, I was the Muppets were singing that song, thinking, oh, so yeah, an island of kindness where allowance is the gateway to receiving. You some just delicious gems you've come up with today, Ms. Tamara. As we knew you would.
Yeah, so that's the invitation as we come to the end of today's show. It's the invitation. Here's your mission, should you choose to accept it, to be an island of kindness where you are functioning from allowance is the gateway to receiving. Yes.
We're gonna have to put kind of a big kind of poster up somewhere saying, come to my island of kindness where allowance is the gateway to receiving.
Yes. Yes.
So while we've got 2.5 minutes left, actually we've got 2 minutes because the music starts in 30 seconds before.
Yeah.
Tamara, who are you? What are you doing? What classes are you running? What's all that about?
Well, I'm off. I just did 5 days of classes in Reno, Nevada, Bars Foundation Level 1. I did Foundation and Level 1, finishing up yesterday in Santa Cruz, California. Next stop, Boston. I'll be flying to Boston, Massachusetts, where I'll be doing Bars Foundation Level 1. And it has been a whirlwind, super fun. I'm having a great time. And then I get a little vacay. I'm choosing a vacay for me in Hilton, South Carolina. How does it get any better?
How does it? So where's South Carolina? That's kind of southeast of America, isn't it?
It's an island off the coast, actually, and it's one of the places I love most on the planet. I'm very excited.
Right. So you have to excuse my kind of in England. Our country would kind of it's just distances just don't mean anything. So when people talk about places in America, I'm like, oh, is that the left side or the right hand side? But I'm doing all right. Boston's kind of the
East
top
Coast.
right, isn't it?
East Coast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word. East Coast.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah, and this is the way that I be kind to me, is that my body loves this particular place on the planet. So when I go there, my body is literally just in glee in every moment. And so one of the ways I be kind to me and my body.
Awesome. Well,
that could be another topic for another show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what would you like to talk about next week? Any ideas? What's your awareness?
I wonder.
Well, we'll keep you posted, people. We've got 10 seconds. So thank you all for listening. Awesomeness. Thank you so much, Tamara. It's been so much fun playing with you.
Until next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for choosing to listen to the Playground of Possibilities radio show with Tamara Junker and Alun Jones. We hope you enjoyed playing with us today and that you'll come back with us next Monday at 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 7 a.m. Pacific on A to Zen.fm. Until then, What would it take for you to enjoy playing with choices and possibilities to create more fun, more magic, and more of everything you desire? What will you choose today?